My name is Emily Litwin. I work at Product Partnerships at Squarespace, the all-in-one website building platform. Thank you for joining me at the end of the day, at the end of the conference. I know happy hours after this, so hopefully it'll be compelling and we can roll right into that. So my focus for today's talk is how we think about and execute partnerships at a product-centric company like ours. And while my experience is rooted in Squarespace, I've attempted to tease out some of the best practices we've learned along the way into a generalizable framework. So from the start, Squarespace has adhered to three key principles: all-in-one, product-centric, and design-forward. How have these principles evolved with our 15-year-old growth of the company? How do we scope partnerships while remaining consistent with these values? These are the questions that I've grappled with and thought about a lot during my tenure at Squarespace. And I hope that by sharing our frameworks and how we think about partnerships, you all can adopt what resonates with you and the challenges that you're facing. So to give context, I'll provide the origin story of Squarespace, how these values came about, and then we'll dive into partnerships. So our original partnership strategy, where we are today, and then hopefully where I think we should be taking the company moving forward. And then we will end with Q&A. So to get started, where did these three values come from? Well, in 2003, Anthony Casalena, who is our current CEO, founded Squarespace in his University of Maryland college dorm room, the quintessential internet startup story. He wanted a way to present his ideas online, but he found that there was no all-in-one solution that he could buy. He could get his domain from one provider, he had a CMS skeleton from another, hosting from a third. And so he set about building the product he wished he could buy. Anthony was the customer he was building for. But it turns out there were others like him, and the desire for a one-stop shop really resonated with people, and the company was born. And so he started from the very beginning with this all-in-one principle, and it has been a guiding force for the company ever since. So we had a very slow start. Anthony was the sole employee for the first 4 years. He wrote code, he answered support tickets, and did everything in between. So for a flashback, this is what the website looked like back then, and you can tell we've hired some designers among other people in between. A $30,000 loan was all it took from his parents to get started. He didn't have a co-founder. He didn't take on capital early on. And so it's easy to see how Squarespace emerged as a product-centric organization from its earliest days, because with a 22-year-old engineer at the helm, the product was the company. The company was the product. There was no outside investors pressuring him to scale. There was no business co-founder looking to broker distribution deals or measure ARPU. Customers valued the product, and so Anthony kept building it incrementally with a product focus to that all-in-one value proposition. And to us, when we say product-centric at Squarespace, what we mean by that is that we make decisions in the context of how the product will be received by our customers. And so within the organization, one might say that the product leaders have the loudest voice at the table. So this is a picture of what our front site looks today. So after a few years, Anthony got it off the ground, and he could say that the website builder he built solved that core need of building an online presence. He hired folks like designers and others, and we actually had a pretty good product. But there were others in the market at this point too. So in 2005, Automatic got into the game by productizing the open source WordPress code, and Wix and Weebly both started in 2006. And so at this point, we needed to really figure out what differentiated Squarespace from the rest of the pack. And this is where the third core principle emerged, this idea of being design forward. So Squarespace was known early on as the favorite builder among the customer segment. Internally, we lovingly refer to as those creative professionals, the designers, the photographers, those who really had an eye for high design and high aesthetic quality. Our customer base has since expanded, and it's, we represent lots of verticals and lots of different types of use cases, but at the time, that's who our core customer was. And so this concept of design forward was something we really leaned into, and it's not just how we think about our product, it permeates every part of the company. So our physical offices are stunning. I encourage you all to visit us in New York. They're designed with utmost attention to detail. They are totally monochromatic, which you'll notice is a theme at Squarespace. If you've ever been on a video conference call with me or my colleagues, I apologize. It looks like we're in dungeons, but in fact, it's just that they painted the walls of the phone booths black, and so it looks bizarre on screen, but it looks really gorgeous and design forward in person. Similarly, for creative production needs, we've brought all of that in-house. So half of the 11th floor of our building is a production studio. So all of the assets you see on our website, in the templates in the template store, or even at the Super Bowl, those are things that we've done. So this is a fun behind-the-scenes shot from our 2018 Super Bowl commercial campaign that we did with Keanu Reeves. So really, design forward has permeated throughout the company. And as we've grown and scaled, all decisions from product marketing, to development, to everything in between, have been rooted in these three core principles. So all-in-one, product-centric, and design forward. And I would argue it has served us well. We've grown a lot over those 15 years. So on the product side, we've continued to expand the feature set, I would say most crucially in 2013 when we offered our commerce platform, allowing our customers to sell goods and services from their websites. And then more recently, to keep pace with our international growth, we launched the localized version of our product in Spanish, French, German, with a couple more languages coming this year. And then on the marketing front, 2009 was our first podcast commercial, so now we are famous, or a lot of people would say infamous, for our ubiquitous coverage in that channel. Sorry, or you're welcome, I don't really know. In 2014, we launched our first Super Bowl ad. We've continued every year to do that since. And then just last year, we sponsored the New York Knicks with a Squarespace logo on every jersey, and that was really cool. So for the past 15 years, we've seen tremendous growth, and in large part due to this laser focus on those three core principles. And our partnerships have been no different. They adhered to those three key principles too. But as you might be thinking, there is a little bit of tension there. So does all-in-one leave room for anything besides a native build? Or if a partner's product, if their aesthetics don't really match Squarespace's, are they automatically disqualified? So using two case study examples, I'll discuss how our initial partnership strategy was to align with adjacent technologies. So first, to address that first point of tension, how can we advocate for partnerships when the company has a preference for building natively in service of that all-in-one ideal? So our leadership team has significant confidence in our engineering ability, but there are certain functionality or feature sets that they concede it would not make sense for us to build internally. It's just too far afield from our core competency or what we think we want to own and be good at. And these are perfect candidates for a partnership. So many years ago, we decided, it wouldn't make sense for us to build accounting software, and so we partnered with Xero. And similarly, when we thought it was time to offer email and productivity to our customers, we knew we didn't want to do that in-house, and so along came Google. When we decided to offer an email solution to our customers, G Suite was the clear partnership choice here. We used the product ourselves, so we knew it was well tested, and that it was easy to use without lacking sophistication, and that's a lot of how we think about software development ourselves. So we launched the partnership in 2014, and it's been really successful. We see over 250,000 inboxes active today, and that number grows daily. And G Suite has been a great partnership example for us because they expanded our feature set, and they made the website and domain products that we sold stickier. So by offering email, digital document storage, calendars, and everything that comes with that suite, we made Squarespace more all-in-one. And while the aesthetics of G Suite and Google are not similar to Squarespace, for starters, they're all primary colors, we're like unfailingly grayscale. It was far less relevant in the context of the website product because G Suite is a back-end tool, and so it doesn't touch the website styling. And so it really worked. It made our customers more successful. So what about that second point? So if a partner's aesthetic doesn't match ours, are they automatically disqualified? Well, when we initially released our commerce platform, we included an integration with Stripe. And that was to facilitate credit card payments for our sellers. And simplicity is a core value at Squarespace. And we thought that Offering the most merchant and developer-friendly payment option made the process of spinning up a store as easy as possible. So the mantra, "the customer is always right," was gospel long before software as a service was a business model, but it still holds true for us. And I should say that about half of Squarespace's headcount goes to our customer operations team. It takes a lot of person power to support 2 million customers. And they're meticulous about detailing our customers' pain points, their feedback, their suggestions. Our customers aren't shy of sharing that either. And one thing became resoundingly clear when we launched our commerce platform. Our merchants wanted to use PayPal in their checkout flow. So as a company, we had completely recognized and acknowledged that there was latent demand here for a partnership, but we were slow to integrate with PayPal because they were not aligned on that design-forward principle to which we adhered. And the Squarespace product and design team would be the first to tell you that the branding and checkout flow that PayPal designed did not match the design that they had in mind for our checkout flow. But at the same time, we could quantify the impact that having a partnership with PayPal would bring. On the one hand, we could attract new customers who required that feature in order to start a store, and others who we would retain because they would otherwise churn looking for that functionality. So we launched in beta in December of 2016 with PayPal, and today we see that about half of our merchants add PayPal as a checkout option in their checkout flow. So the biggest shift for us here was understanding the tension between valuing our design philosophy and then doing things that drive customer success. So it was absolutely a compromise, but it drove measurable customer success, which in turn made the Squarespace product more valuable to our customers, and that was ultimately the idea. So big strategic partnerships like Google, like PayPal, they're exciting to execute, and they deliver an outsized bump to marketing, to brand awareness, to product maturity, but they also take up a ton of time. And when growth is a key objective, and I imagine for most of the companies you're representing, growth is a key objective, every project that requires development resources is prioritized against that long list of opportunities. And that's been a recurring theme this conference, is how do you get things done with a very limited amount of resources? So about 1.5 years ago, I took this job at Squarespace with the goal of building out our platform strategy from the business side. So through fits and starts, a coalition of my colleagues and I from product, from marketing, from my own team strategy, we pushed through the company's very first publicly facing API in January of this year. And that doesn't sound big, but let me tell you, that is big. The company was nearing its 15th anniversary, and we didn't have any externally facing APIs. We use APIs all the time internally for our services to communicate, but we had never opened up in a true platform sense before. And in part, it's because with APIs, you can't control for design, you can't really control for the product quality of an integration, but they're a great way to offer an all-in-one solution, even if that solution feels a little disjointed at times. And so this is the conversation we had again, over and over again internally in one version or another. But where I think we've all kind of conceded this in these past 2 days is that platform strategy gets tricky because there's inherent tension around building the tools by which a company can productize partnerships. So by this, I mean investing in APIs or SDKs or any other tools that allow for quickly scalable integrations. And that's because when a resource-strapped dev team is looking at 2 projects, one of which leads to or culminates in a finished shippable product, and the other is infrastructural, it's very easy to be biased towards that first product or project. There's immediate reward. But by investing in infrastructure, you end up paying dividends because you then put the work on the partnerships team or the BD team to get the integrations done, and not on the engineering team. So to mitigate the risk that an open API presented Squarespace from the design forward perspective, we started by surfacing orders data. The integrations built to the orders API would all be on the back end, similar to that G Suite model, and it would minimize the risk of compromising our design values. And to mitigate the risk on the product-centric front, we decided to curate those third parties that would become discoverable within the Squarespace platform. So many of our competitors operate marketplaces or app stores, which are a consolidated listing of all the plugins or add-ons you might want for your website core product. And I see a ton of benefit here. I think key among it, the benefits are that it's a natural R&D lab, and you can see easily which of the add-ons your customers are desiring most. But they also do come with drawbacks. And at Squarespace, our principal concern with the App Store approach was the concept of decision fatigue. So wouldn't we at Squarespace prefer to do the research for the best 2-3 apps for a specific use case on behalf of our customers rather than ask them to do it each themselves over and over again? Not to pick on Shopify, because I have a lot of respect for what they do, but they have 9+ pages just for their shipping integration alone. And that's a lot for anyone to wade through and understand really what the benefits of each of these options are. So Squarespace thought that if we curated that app offering, it would save a lot of time collectively of our users and maintain our status as a company hyper-focused on product. And so to ensure the product quality of these integrations, we were very selective about which apps to highlight. So any third party could build to the Orders API, and I hope they all do, but we were pretty selective, especially at launch, for what we would be including in the discoverability section of our website. So this is a very washed out version of what the apps panel looks like. And it highlights 3 compelling use cases that were built to the Orders API, Printful, Taxjar, and ShipBob. And what's cool about these 3 is that they're consuming the identical data, but they offer very different services. So with Printful, you can print custom things on demand. With Taxjar, you can reconcile and file your sales tax in the United States. And with ShipBob, you can have warehousing and fulfillment, which is really helpful for our more successful merchants who can't be shipping out of their basement anymore. So these are the 3 we chose to highlight at launch. And as I said, a lot of companies have already built to the Orders API, and so we're going to be continuing to see which ones to include and make discoverable. In addition, we're also going to be launching other APIs, and so this list will only grow. And so while these 3 key principles, all-in-one, product-centric, and design-forward, were certainly key inputs into how we decided which of these 3 to include, we had other inclusion criteria as well, and this will be true for our apps panel moving forward. So product fit. Does this feature or functionality solve a customer problem in a way that doesn't already exist natively within our platform? Demand. Are our customers writing in to customer support asking for this? Do we have evidence that they're solving for this problem away from the platform, and we would like to bring that within the platform ecosystem? How big is the market? What is this third party charging for their service? For Squarespace website, it costs $15, $30 a month. So if this service is $1,000 a month, is that really the right audience? Is our audience the right customer set for them? Monetization. If we're going to be offering up this channel to a third party, how are we going to be compensated for that customer acquisition? Is it a rev share? Is it a bounty model? And then this sort of catch-all strategic interest category, which is essentially the X factor. Would an integration with this company unlock a new customer segment or unlock a new key geography for us? Or maybe we might decide not to partner with or include a third party's app in the apps panel if we decide we're going to build that functionality natively, maybe in 3 months. And so there's a little bit of art to the science, and I think that that's what makes partnerships fun, and that's why we all decided to have careers in this area. And so I'll end this section by saying I think it's really exciting times at the company. We're finally moving towards a platform strategy that makes sense for a SaaS business. And so just stay tuned. There are going to be more APIs and more partners coming here. Okay, so finally, part 3. We first started with adjacent technologies, our original partnership strategy. I then explained where we currently are with our budding platform strategy. And so for this final section, I want to look to the future a bit and think how we ought to start thinking about partnerships moving forward based on my observations from the industry. So it's no secret that the industry of SMB software is converging. Companies make a name for themselves with a core product or service, and then they expand from there. And so for Squarespace, we're known for our our website building CMS. We have won awards for our templates, and our customers know us for them. But some of our own partners now offer native solutions akin to the web presence solution that we offer. So for example, Zola, our wedding registry partner, they now offer websites to their couples. They don't have that many templates. They're not very customizable. But you can imagine that if you are a newly engaged couple, you have a very long to-do list for your wedding planning. And so maybe unlimited customizations isn't something you actually care about, and this gets the job done. Or Mailchimp, our newsletters partner. They now offer splash pages with their mailing email campaigns. Again, they don't, the functionality isn't very deep there, but they track in a very compelling way. So maybe that's all our customers need. And frankly, we're very still happy to be working with both these customers because our customers will decide for themselves which of these they'd like to use. And on most of the time, they still use both. And we understand that that's going to happen. This convergence is a reality. So these are two examples of our own partners encroaching into our own product space. But this convergence is happening across the board, not just in the CMS space. It feels like I read the same press release over and over again each week with a different company in the headline as one of our competitors goes after the same adjacency after another. And so like one example of this that I wanted to highlight was online bookings or online scheduling tools. So the way Squarespace solved for this is we partnered with a company called Acuity. This is one of our templates that shows how easy and seamless it is to embed an Acuity block in a website. GoDaddy, now they offer natively they offer online booking. Square, a POS provider, acquired a booking company, rebranded it Square Appointments. And I should also point out that last week Square acquired Weebly, a website builder. So this convergence is happening, it's real, and it's literally happening just this week. And so as the industry converges, I think it's imperative to solidify your core product in the eyes of the consumer and then secure partners in the adjacencies that you don't plan to be building to. And then looking for where the partnership is true in the reverse too, which kind of brings us full circle to that first part, which is the adjacency alliance portion from the beginning. I see this more and more critical as the industry morphs and companies aim to solve as many of the needs as their customers have, and their customers become more and more varied. So I aim to steer Squarespace along this partnership strategy moving forward. One caveat I'll make here is that the ease with which a customer can do this, a company can do this, largely depends on where in the customer journey their software becomes relevant, or where their offering solves a pain point. Squarespace is well positioned in this regard. So when we think of an entrepreneur getting her business up and running, a very early step in the process is that she'll probably make a website and get her presence online. And surely, if she is successful, she will ultimately have to pay her taxes. But it would surprise me if she signed up for a tax or accounting solution before she got her website started. And obviously, that's a grossly oversimplified solution, but understanding where in the customer journey your product solves a need will help you better understand just how successful your company will be in cross-selling in adjacent technologies. So as I said, this is how we think about partnerships at Squarespace, a product-centric, design-forward company built around an all-in-one value proposition. So to generalize in summary, I would leave you with these 3 points. One, have a clear product strategy from the beginning that outlines what you care about owning. So be that data, be that functionality, or something else. And then for everything that doesn't fall into that very privileged set, look to partner. Because a decision to partner today doesn't preclude a decision to build natively in the future either. 2, invest in the productization of partnership tools. It's always a challenge to demonstrate ROI on infrastructure investments, but trust that if your core product is as sound as you think it is, people and companies in adjacent technologies will want to align themselves and then build to you. And then the 3rd point is really just an underscoring of the first 2. So as the industry converges, a company's success will be based on the strength of their core product or their core competency. So give your colleagues the space to focus on those challenges and lean into partnerships in those adjacencies. So that about sums it up. Thank you so much for listening. I know we will all head out to happy hour after, so probably we can keep the Q&A short. But at this time, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, so now.
Hey, Emily, nice to see you again. So I love that you guys just have an API now in 2018. So welcome to the 20th century.
Thank you.
I've had this conversation with you before when I was at OLERC, when you guys are thinking about partnerships and your design focus. I love that you're having that conversation internally. Clearly, you see at this point tons of companies with open APIs, and you guys are still skittish about it. What is the conversation like? I mean, you talked about the design focus, but your devs obviously know open APIs. There must have been some people pushing for it, some people pushing against it. What was that conversation like inside the company?
Yeah, so I mean, I alluded to it a little bit. It's the design focus, and maybe you'd say hyper focus that we have. I mean, the fact that our CEO and founder is still our CEO, and he's been able to take the company from his dorm room to where we are today. It's his baby. So I think that there's an understandable protection around wanting to keep that aesthetic the same. But then it's also just the same thing everyone has said. When you have a resource-strapped engineering team, there's just a long list of priorities. And like I've been trying to push for having an API engineering team, and that's just not on the cards immediately. So it's one of those things where I think if we had unlimited resources, it would be much less of a conversation. It would be like, yeah, of course we're going to do that. Everyone does that. It makes sense. But for now, we have to pick battles and push out what we can. And I'm hoping that the success of the Orders API is so clearly a home run that that's the best argument we can make for additional APIs.
Hi, Emily. So first off, great presentation, thanks. Comment and question, first comment, I think your choice of the 3 launch partners for the App Store were fantastic, especially that tax jar company. The question, you're welcome. So the question is, you'd mentioned build versus partner. Can you maybe just spend a minute on what's the rationale, what's the thinking at Squarespace as far as how you make a decision whether to build something yourself or go out and partner with somebody?
Yeah, I mean, that special sauce is going to be different for every company, but when you think of build, partner, buy, and Squarespace doesn't really have a history of acquisition, so it's, for the most part, it's builder or partner. I think it comes down to, do you care to own that functionality or that data? Is that going to be something that's critical to the customer success? And if you don't have it internally and natively, there's somehow, that's like a threat to the business. And so I think tax is an easy one to say, we don't feel threatened by, that's never going to be a game we're going to get into. Where it becomes a little bit less clear is things that are closer to the core product that we offer, this online web presence. And so then it's going to be a much more nuanced conversation case by case.
I have a question. Do you have any sort of referral or affiliate program that helps drive customers from maybe your customers or the people you partner with?
Yeah, that's another good question. So the partnerships that I was referring to here were all technology partnerships. We do have an affiliate program, so a very traditional program where if they send us leads and they convert to paying customers, we pay a bounty. And that's excellent for acquisition. And for our marketing team, acquisition is on their head. So we don't have a sales team, and so all of our acquisition targets falls to the marketing org. My colleague runs the affiliate program, but when we think about these partnerships, it's really about driving retention and stickiness, and then the additional, the gravy of the rev share. But we're not looking for acquisition partners for these kind of partnerships, largely from what I was talking about before, the customer journey so often is building a website the very first step for a customer. So it's less likely that we were going to partner with a technology that would be higher in the funnel than a website building process is.
So it was Kino's tier that brought me to Squarespace. So how did you create that partnership?
With Keanu? Yeah, so I only can speak to what I've heard from our marketing colleagues because they manage all of our marketing partnerships. But each year we look for customers who are already on the platform. And he had been a customer for a number of years selling his motorcycles. And so before we launched the Super Bowl campaign, we helped him make his website look a little bit nicer. But he was a customer, and he really believed in the product, so he was down. So I don't know the details, but if he uses your product, that's probably a good first step.
Hey, I had a question. I work for Xero, so we have lots of app partners that we onboard, and I saw you just have 3 there. And is it just one API?
At the moment, yes.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what's the onboarding process like if somebody came and wanted to express interest, and I'm just curious how that conversation or journey goes at Squarespace.
Yeah, so we launched the apps panel on April 23rd. So we knew that the next question would be, okay, so what's that long list of people? Once they find out this exists, how are we gonna do? And so that criteria for inclusion that I listed, we're gonna have a monthly meeting now where the companies that reach out to us saying that they're interested in being part of that discoverability in-app. If they hit those criteria, then the decision to go or no go will live with business development, whereas before it would have had to live with product. And so we now are on the same page of what does it take to get included so that we can onboard them pretty quickly once we decide that they hit all of those criteria. And so as we expand other APIs as well, there'll be more room for more apps. And we don't have like a hard cap of what we think too many is, but we don't want to have a ton of redundancy for a specific use case where we're seeing like 9 pages. Like we just feel like that becomes putting the burden then on our customers.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Emily. Appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
job. And thanks, everybody.